it's Coach Tori, and this is Raising Runners. We talk running, fitness, mental health, and so many more topics. As the founder of a youth running program, I approach all of our conversations with our youth athletes in mind and kind of have a focus around those things. But as you will see, we are finding that all of these topics relate to runners and people who like to move and do fitness or anything like that. Relates to everybody. Check it out. Hey, it's Coach Tori, and welcome back. Today I am joined by a fellow runner and running coach, Giovanna Farian. She goes by Joe. She is from the Running Wild Collective. I should have asked before, actually, to make sure I had the name of your run club right. Hi, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tori, for having me on. I'm super excited to get chatting about some running. Joe, Coach Joe, Giovanna, whichever one works for you. And I started Running Wild Collective, and I've been coaching for close to 2 years now, so I'm fairly new to it, but not new to running. I've been running for almost 15 years of my life, so I've been doing it for a long time. I grew up doing it in middle school, high school, college, and now run post-college. So running is kind of what I love to do. And so here I am coaching and sharing the joy of running that way.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I should have even asked, actually, because I found you on Facebook because you were asking about running podcasts. So I'm guessing you're like an avid podcast listener.
Yes.
Okay, so what are your favorite running podcasts? Because I'd love to talk about other running podcasts too.
Yeah, so I mean, Running Explained, that one's like one that's on heavy rotation. The newer one that our certification, USCA, I never know how to say that as a full name.
I know.
But that one I've been listening to, really enjoyed those. I've done the specialization course with the sports psychology one. And so it's been cool to hear them come on the podcast and like talk about that too. And I'm trying to think of like other one. I listened to the Ultra. I can't think of their names right now because I'm blanking. But yeah, I stick to true crime. That's kind of what I listen to podcast-wise. And yeah, I've been listening to a lot of the more technical side of the running stuff. And I listened to yours on the Born to Run and the book club books too. So those are super interesting to me too.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening to my podcast because, yeah, it's so funny. I also listen to, like, Running Explained. I do, like, Trail Runner Nation. I haven't checked out the UESC, now I can't say it either, podcast either.
USCA?
Yeah, right. Okay, I like that. I haven't checked that one out either, but I'm like, I need to, because I listen to podcasts constantly, too. And I used to be a true crime person. And I don't know, since becoming a mom, true crime like bothers me. I just can't.
For sure.
So now I listen to like reality TV podcasts, which is like just as like mind numbing kind of, But yeah, I'm always just like, I need to just actually listen to like running podcasts to get more information because like I spend so much time listening to podcasts anyway. So it'd be nice to actually like learn something. How was the sports psychology specialization course?
Oh, I loved it. I have a minor in psychology from college, and so I'm always interested in the psychology piece and the mindset piece behind running and sports. And so I was like, sure, I'll check this out through USCA, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the setup of they had the video, and then they had kind of the major points of the lesson written out, which was helpful because then you listened to it and then got to see the breakdown of the lesson. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Learned a lot of I think just learning the language behind the sports psychology piece to it was really cool because I think I hear a lot about this stuff and talk to my athletes about like, this part of marathon training or this part of 5K training and different things like that, but just to kind of get more of a solid language knowledge and how to put things that maybe are going to be easier to communicate with my athletes. I really enjoyed that piece of it and learning about that.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I keep meaning to check that out too, because it's always been an area of interest. It's like on my long list of things I need to accomplish this year, right? At least we're only like halfway through the year.
Yeah, plenty of time still.
Right, 6 months. All right, so you ran forever. It sounds like middle school up until now. So what did you always run? I'm sure it's probably changed a little bit, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I started off running as a soccer player. And so I count it as part of my running journey because as a soccer player, you're kind of taught to hate running in a sense. Like running is a punishment. And so that was something that we even had on our t-shirts as like middle school, high schoolers, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just part of it. And so that's where I kind of say my running journey started, because even throughout middle school, high school, college, and running post-college, it's had its ups, it's had its downs, and all of that. So, love points of running, and then like low points of running. But I ran in high school, and I did cross country and then track as well. I also did like tennis and soccer.
Oh my gosh, busy.
I just wanted to try all the things, and that's kind of something that I even in the run club that we started here in Fayetteville is like something I still incorporate, because it's just, I think now that I've grown up a little bit, I look back and I'm like, this is just kind of something that's always been part of me, where I just want to try stuff, and I want to be experienced, whether I'm good at it or not. But I just want to, see all the cool things my body can do. I can play tennis, I can play soccer, I can, enjoy all these things. And but anyway, I did track, and I did the 1 mile. I can't remember the meters. It's hard for me to remember the meters. But I did the 1 mile, and then I think 800 meters, so two or half a mile, and then cross country 5Ks, and then college was 5Ks, 6Ks, and then my school didn't have a track team, so that we were kind of a weird situation where we were a young cross country program, mm-hmm. and then we didn't have a track team yet, and so now they do, which is great, but I didn't have that when I was going through college, but yeah.
So then how was the transition from college athlete, where like it's, at least for the most part, I think it's viewed more as like your job basically when you're in college, right? Like you're there, you're working, even if you're not like on scholarship and stuff, but it's a big part of your life in like a very serious way, not as much of a fun way. And then, we become adults, and it's like, you might never run again. You can do whatever you want. If you want to sign up for these 5Ks and spend $50 a weekend, like you can, you know what I mean?
Right.
So what was that transition like? Because I think it can be so different and also like challenging too.
No, absolutely. I love talking about this subject because I think it's something that kind of, I don't know, I felt it really hard coming out of college because I played sports for so long. Then leaving that, I kind of felt a little bit lost and didn't really know what to do with myself, because I was definitely that kid or that like person that looked forward to practice and looked forward to games, and so I would be sitting in class and sure enjoying what I was learning, but I was just looking forward to practice and looking forward to being with my team and all of that. So it was really difficult, going from college and then finding a job and doing the 9-to-5 office thing, and then there wasn't team stuff to do. There wasn't, and I think in college and high school, you kind of had that group that you sat and lunch with or ate dinners with, or you had study hall with. So you kind of had that guaranteed group of people just throughout, and then not so much after. There was no guarantees. You walked into the office and you could either, at least where my job was, I worked as a like in the lab and stuff. So I could go all day without talking to a single person. Like I very much, if I wanted to, I could do that. And so it's just very different and very jarring for me a little bit. And I had to seek out that kind of team and community, and I found CrossFit.
Okay.
So that kind of helped, in those early times of leaving college and doing that, and kind of picking and yeah, kind of to touch on what you mentioned, and definitely I was a biology major and doing cross country. I was also playing tennis, so I was a dual sport athlete in college. And that's actually how I ended up at this university, was playing tennis. Like I got recruited to play there, and so the cross country thing just happened to happen, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, leaving or doing that in college, I was pretty jam-packed schedule, and it was definitely like, I felt like sports just took up so much of my life. And so when I got out, I missed the team, but I also was kind of tired. And it was also kind of like, I didn't seek out the races. I didn't necessarily do any running stuff, and I wanted to see what else there was. I kind of wanted, I was done with tennis. I was done with running for a little bit. And so then CrossFit happened because it was weightlifting, which was different than what I was, doing. And it still had that team, but it wasn't necessarily running, and it wasn't tennis. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's so funny. I also found CrossFit as I was like leaving school. I stopped running in college early. I was asked not to be on my team anymore. And so I then was like, I need a team, right? And yeah, found CrossFit too. And it was like, yeah, it's a different kind of workout. You still get that like atmosphere of like, we're all doing this together kind of thing. So then when did you find yourself like back into running more seriously, or what was the transition to like, okay, now I'm an adult runner and now I'm going to be a running coach too?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, after doing doing CrossFit for a little bit, I missed running. And so I started doing this thing where I was doing CrossFit 6 days a week. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to add on running. I'm going to go for the marathon. Like that was the next thing, because I had been competing in the 5K, 6K distances. And so I was like, let me try this long distance thing and go after the marathon.
Yeah.
That very quickly did not work for me because I was doing way too much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so stopped probably 2 months into marathon training, and just kind of kept running, but was no longer on the marathon training track. I was just running to run because I missed it. And I met my now husband, and we ended up moving to Fayetteville. So he's stationed here in Fort Liberty. And because it was far away from where my job was, what I was, originally doing, I had the opportunity to maybe sit down and think through what my passion is and what I wanted to pursue. Was it continue on this like science track, or do I pursue like running? And it kind of keeps calling back to me. And, I still feel like I was missing that community piece or that team piece that I really missed from, my college and high school years. So, yeah, I ended up just going to to look on what's the job searching website?
Like Indeed?
I can't remember. Yeah, exactly. Indeed. I could see it in my brain and I couldn't say it. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I ended up just going on there and just typing in like running jobs. And I found something on Fleet Feet here in Fayetteville. And so I, signed up, sent my resume in, and that's kind of where it all started for me. It was a very it was a very big shift in terms of what I was doing before to what I potentially wanted to do now. And it was just kind of more exploring and see where it took me. And I ended up being the training program manager for this Fleet thing. They didn't have any training programs here in Fayetteville. And so I took that on and ended up creating a Couch to 5K and got my certification, and all of this kind of started happening and working, and people started signing up for the Couch to 5K program, and I now was not only making the programs but also coaching, and it was just so weird at the beginning, because I was like, what is happening? It was all happening so fast, and it was so cool, and I was so excited. And even talking about it, I'm like, wow, it was just such a big like turn of events. And yeah, and then it kind of just kicked off from there, and eventually I was like, maybe I want to do this like for myself, and I, kept doing stuff. I started doing and what are they called, seminars, or like workshops with the local gyms here, and started the run club, and yeah, it just kind of kept going, and it's still going, and I've been able to kind of create the team feeling that I've missed so much, and now I get to be with those team, Tuesdays and Saturdays at Run Club, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. That is a crazy, like, how all that happened. It's so interesting how stuff like works out that way, right?
I know. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. So your Run Club seems awesome. I checked you guys out a little bit on, I can't even, like, social media. What is that? Instagram. And you always look like you have such like a nice big group, and like everybody looks like they're having a great time. Can you talk a little bit about like how actually you built up that community? Because I also think we have so many run clubs in my area, or just like groups that meet up too, and it's like, but also a lot of them have like a different vibe or like goal focus, and so can you talk a little bit about like how you were like, these are the people I want to be part of my team and all that stuff, and then also it seems like you guys do a lot of cool stuff, like you're saying, like the workshops, so if you can talk about that too. But I just asked you like 3 questions at once, so sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Yeah, I think, I mean, like I mentioned it, we started with the Couch to 5K, and I was doing other programs like, training for a half marathon, or different things like that. And since we're we're right in Fort Liberty, then we have a big military population. And so I was also going to start a 2-mile ACFT training thing. So we just had kind of different groups, and this was all through Fleet Feet. And then once I eventually, kind of sat back and decided if I wanted to do this as a business and kind of start my own thing, the people that had started with me with the Couch to 5K program, they kept signing up for programs. And so, after a few rounds, I basically knew them, and we were friends, and, it was this awesome like group. And so when I made that decision to kind of transition, I was like, look, guys, like, I don't want us to stop meeting. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing. And if you guys like want to come join, like, please do. And so it started off with just like 4 or 5 of us probably. And it was like that for, I don't know, maybe a good 2 to 3 months. It was just like the same 4 to 5 of us. Maybe one of them would bring a friend, and just kind of showing up. And at the core of it, it was, wanting to open it up to runners of all abilities, right? I think because we're in this military kind of concentrated area, that we're in the base base, I think, if not the East Coast, the whole like US, like it's a really big base. Wow. And so you look around, and it's like, oh my gosh, like everyone's freaking like, crushing stuff, like they're crushing races, they're crushing distances, like doing all these, awesome things. And so I think people sometimes get intimidated just because literally, looking around you have this concentrated mass of people doing all these crazy, awesome things. So making sure that it was a group that we were inviting and was available for all paces and everyone. So that's kind of RWC's thing is, no specific pace groups. We don't have any pace groups. There's no specific routes or distances. That's kind of going with the theme of like running wild. It's something that I enjoy in like my own running is, and I do things to like stay safe. I have, the stuff. I won't say, all the stuff to keep my, but yeah, it, just that part of, running and it being an adventure. And so that's something that like I like to make sure stays kind of at the core of Running Wild Collective, and also the ideas of trying different things of cross training. I think it's super important as runners or for me too, the sustainability in running, and I always have a hard time saying this word, longevity. There we go, longevity in running. And I think that includes, doing all forms of cross training. And so we've done kickboxing, we've done rock climbing, we've done tennis, we've done soccer. So all these different things, and all of these are done through local gyms in the area too. So we'll reach out to them, or they'll reach out to us. We just had a CrossFit gym, invite us to their WODs, or their community WODs and stuff. And they're like, come on out, and I love that. It's so cool that, people are like noticing, and they're like, oh yeah, come to my gym and like come do this workout with us, like bring your group of runners. And so, yeah, just that's kind of something that we as a group, I think, keep close to us, where it's all the unique things that make us runners. It's not just necessarily about running. I think we all meet together because of our love of running. And then very quickly we kind of find out, it's like, oh, you know how to fence? Let's do a fencing class. Or, oh, you know how to, like, we have this awesome artist, and her aunt has like a paint and sip studio. And so, eventually we're going to do that. But just all these things that make us as, individuals unique, and being able to pursue those things too. And then, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It sounds like such a fun group, but like you really made an awesome community of people that like share, like you're saying, like you guys come together with your love of running, but then you all bring your own things too, which is so awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. So now you mentioned where you are is like a huge military base area. I feel like I'm not even saying any of that correct. So you can tell, like I said in my message, I know like nothing about military life. So like, that's how dumb I am about it. But
that's okay.
So you train people for the ACFT 2-mile test. Is it a test? Okay. So is that literally just, I don't want to say just running 2 miles, but it is, it's a 2-mile test. Is there anything else to that?
There is. So it's kind of been evolving for the past 3 years. They keep changing it. So Army's kind of at the forefront of making the PT test more inclusive, rather than, because it used to be just pull-ups, push-ups, and running. And so now they do deadlifts, they do ball throws, they do sled drags. I believe still push-ups are in there. I have to double check. And the 2-mile run. So it has a lot more phases, a lot more equipment, and but the 2-mile run is still included in that. So that's something that I have as part of my coaching plans, because we are in such a predominantly military installation or area, and that's something I think that, especially people go in so young into the military, right, that their introduction to running is sometimes not the best for their individual bodies. And a lot of times you see a lot of injuries very early on. And then I think it makes, sometimes I've worked with athletes that are like, oh, I actually hate running, and so even when they get out, finding that love for running, and it's like, oh, you don't have to go hardcore all the time. This isn't, what you have to do anymore. And so, yeah, working with that kind of mindset shift, or working through even like something like the PT test, different phases of running and how that works, depending on what point you are in your military journey.
So now, I don't know if like what time frames really look like, but have you seen anybody, or you see a pattern of like people who come to you to get trained for that test, right? Then do you see them after they're done with, however long they were serving or whatever? Do any of them ever come back and are like, I want to just run because I want to run now? Or is that that doesn't usually work out that way?
Yeah, I actually haven't had someone, because the contracts tend to be pretty long, so I haven't caught anyone at that point in their contract where they're working with me and then have transitioned out.
Okay.
So I haven't had experience with that yet. I have had experience with runners that haven't had any coaching through their ACFT, because even that offering of this program or this coaching is pretty new, or I haven't seen it in this area, and I think whenever I bring it up to people in the military, they're like, "Whoa, like that's awesome! Like if I knew this existed, like I would have done it sooner," and so that's awesome. That it's like, okay, it doesn't have to suck, so bad. Like there is a way to make this, better, and that progress can be seen quickly, and it's not something, that you have to wait for.
So where do you start with people who come to you and they're like, I hate running? Because I feel like, that must be really challenging, because I find myself like having a hard time relating to that idea, because it's like I run because I love to run, and I see that it's like you too. But also I feel like in my head initially when I hear people hate running, it's because it's hard, and like us as coaches, we know how to break it down to make it simple enough so that like it doesn't have to be so hard, especially as you're starting. But I imagine you're probably getting some fit people who, if they've been like, running throughout all the time that they're serving or anything like, or, whatever they're doing, who still might come to you and hate running, but it's not because it's just hard necessarily, because they're fit and they can do it. So I guess that's like a multi-part question too. Where do you go with those people? How do you start to like help them shift that mindset of like, it doesn't have to be bad?
I love that. Such a good question. I kind of like to always remind myself that they're coming to me to talk about running and coaching, and so and I don't know if this is true or not, but in my head I'm like, they can't hate it that much. Like if they're coming to me, I like to remind myself, to make myself feel a little bit better, that they can't wholeheartedly hate it. There's something that still itches at them, and so I want to find out what that itch is. I want to find out, is it because they feel like they have untouched potential? Does it feel like, what is that itch that they're still coming to me to talk about running or talk about coaching? Because I don't necessarily believe that they're coming just to tell me that they hate running, and so I want to find out what that is. And then starting off with, I think what's been cool and what I've seen work sometime, or seen work most of the time, is that it's kind of blowing their minds with how much recovery is helpful for them. And I think that kind of mind-blowing, starting with just like that mind-blowing thing, works for those athletes that are very stuck on, running isn't good for me. Like running hurt me, running put me in this bad spot, running is bad for my body. And I found that starting with that approach with those specific athletes has kind of rocked their world so much that they're like, oh, okay, like I can now start at this new, completely different level, if that makes sense, rather than kind of approaching it as, it's like, yeah, we're going to run, this, and we're going to do this, and kind of approaching it with more of like the run forward plan, I guess. I start with more of like a recovery forward with those specific athletes, just because I think it just puts them in a completely different, mindset and playing field, that they kind of see it more and receive it more than just, here's the run, keep running, do what you've been doing always,
Yeah, well, and I think I hear all the time with people, whether they're starting running or, lifting weights or whatever it is, and it's like pushing through that like that sore period you have from just like whether you're even doing it too hard or not, but it's just like your body's not used to doing this, and like having to push through that and get through that. And but like you're saying, helping emphasize the recovery so they know that like this isn't how it's always going to feel. This is how you don't have to just feel this way. You know what I mean? I think that that's so great. And I loved what you said. It's so simple, right? Like if they're coming to you, some part of them doesn't hate running, right? Because yeah, people who hate running, they like who just truly are like, I hate running, I don't want to do it. They like actually don't do it. They're not going to talk to you about running. You will not find them near a running store or a running club, right? Like it's not going to happen. So you're not going to have to be like, well, I'm going to have to coach you and you really hate this. So now what? Right? So
right, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's so, it's so funny. As soon as you said, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just clicked like, yeah, I never really thought about that. Like they can't totally hate it. Right? No, that's awesome.
At least that's what I tell myself. I'm like, how can I move forward with this? Okay.
Yeah, well, from now on, I'm going to have to think that too, because I'm like, that makes like so much sense. So I'm going to have to take that one. So what are your goals with your club then? Because it seems like it's already doing like really awesome things, but I imagine you have big plans or just plans in general.
The biggest of plans.
Yeah.
No,
no pressure, right?
Right. I feel like it's grown. It kind of feels like this. I just started, or I'm in the middle of reading this book, and I have this silly image of sourdough starter. I don't bake bread. I'm not a baker. I don't know anything about this.
I was going to say we can talk about bread.
I'd love to. I'd love to hear you talk about bread. And the author is talking about the sourdough starter and how it's like grown, and I don't really understand. But what I was picturing is the run club has been the sourdough starter is what I'm like making the connection with. But it's just grown and grown, and I'm just really trying to make sure the foundation is really set. Because when I started running Wild Collective, I was like, okay, so how can I make this into a thing that, you know, if it continues and if it, you know, people are interested, how can I do this in other places? Because with my husband being in the military, we're going to be moving at some point, you know, and that's going to be coming up relatively soon for us. And so I want to be able to still have this wherever we go. And so the idea is that, okay, if this foundation is so strong and we have a good recipe, then wherever we go, wherever we get stationed at, I can make those same connections within the community. I can, you know, do all of this and start another, you know, section of Running Wild Collective and just have different little, I can't think of the word right now, but subdivisions or
yeah, I wanted to say franchise, but like that's also wrong. So I get what you're saying.
Something along those lines, though. Yeah. And just be able to do that, you know, kind of wherever we go. Because I kind of selfishly don't want this to ever stop. So yeah. I want to keep, you know, looking forward to run clubs, and I don't know. I think it's a good recipe, and I love the group that it's brought and the friends that it's brought me, and the community that's grown from it. So that's the hope. The hope is that, you know, we can replicate this wherever we go, and find those people that are within that community, and keep, you know, finding them.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you did an awesome job to start. Like you're saying, like you made all these awesome connections, you figured out how to make it work and find the right people, and then like nurture that whole community. So I mean, I'm sure wherever you go, you'll make it work. Do you have any personal running goals?
I got bit by the triathlon bug.
Oh no.
I know. Have you ever done one?
No. I can't swim. Like I tried to take adult swim lessons and quit, so no.
Okay, I can't swim either. I did, and it was very evident in my first triathlon. It's been 34 weeks now. We did it in New Hampshire, and I loved the challenge of it. And so I think right now we're actually doing a 5K this weekend with the run club. and eventually I'll do another marathon. How do you feel about the marathon distance?
I just did I did 27 and a half miles for a relay with my dad over the weekend, and like couldn't walk for like 2 days. And we're supposed to be training for a fall marathon, and I'm like, I'm a short distance person. That is like where I belong. Although I'm like, as I get older, like I have to just go with the flow like everyone else and pick those longer distances. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Half marathon, I think, is my favorite distance.
Yeah.
I think that's a good, middle. I feel great. I love it. But anyway, I think half marathon still in the future. But triathlon is kind of where I'm, inching my way into exploring. Yeah, the swim part of it was the most difficult. By far, it was, I tell people, I'm like, I couldn't have possibly trained or prepared for this any other way other than just like dropping me in a pool of sharks. And that would have like helped me for what this swim portion was. Like, I was so thrown off. But yes, in terms of, running goals, it would be, I think, my next triathlon and feeling more confident in that swim portion.
How are you on bikes? Like, are you good with the bike at least? Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I did okay. This was like, it was in the mountains of New Hampshire. And so it was, I can't even remember the gain of, elevation gain within like, 4 miles, I believe. It was something ridiculous. And I had a hybrid bike. I didn't actually have a triathlon bike. We literally just, went all in with this. And yeah, so I'm hoping for the next one, I will be better prepared. The bike felt fine. I was okay. I had fun, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So have you been practicing like your open water swim? Because that's so different than a pool, right?
Yes, it is. It is different. And I haven't touched a pool since this triathlon. So once I decide on a goal race, then I will kind of start that process. But I see it in my future, and I'm waiting until I don't know. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, that is quite a big undertaking. I feel like there was like 2 seconds of my life that I also thought that was like triathlon. That's what I want to do. Because we've done a few bike races and I'm like, that's pretty fun. And like, obviously I love running. And then, tried swimming. It was like, nope, never need to get in the pool like that ever again.
Right. It's a different beast.
Yeah. Okay, well, I feel like that's actually all I had, and we're like getting close to time at this point. Did you have any other, because I know like we had talked about other things we were going to talk about, and then, I was like, we'll see where we go. But did you have anything that I didn't get to that you actually wanted to like make sure we got to, make sure you said, anything like that? And I'm not like, putting you on the spot of like, you have to have something good here.
I'm looking through. I made kind of like little notes for myself. But I don't know. I feel like we touched on some great stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good.
Okay, super. Cool. I'm like, I should probably just stop asking people that because I'm like, if we didn't get to it, like it just didn't flow with the conversation, so that's fine. But like now I'm like putting pressure on people of like, you have to come up with something. Like, what didn't we talk about? But no, this was so fun. And where can people find you? Obviously I'll put links and everything in the notes, but if they want to find your run club or you, where can we find you?
For sure. So social media, Facebook, Instagram, Running Wild Collective. We're also on Meetup. That's kind of where we post all our what we're doing throughout the week. Tuesdays, Saturdays is when we do our run club, and then in between those days we'll do tennis or climbing or yoga or whatever. We just did trivia last night. So that's where you'll find that. And then my own personal is kind of coaching. Instagram is your fave cup of Joe, like cup of Jho.
Cute.
And yeah, I think that covers it. And then I have my Running Wild Collective website, which I can include too.
Yeah, I'll definitely make sure that's in there. I was just, as I'm like listening to you, I'm searching like a map of North Carolina because I'm not super familiar with it, but we're going to, I don't remember exactly where in North Carolina this October. And I was like, oh my gosh, if we're near you, at least we'll have to come do a run. But we're going to, I know we're stopping in Duck, which looks like it's not close to you. But then I have to figure out where else we are going. But I'll have to, as long as you're still going to be in North Carolina in October, I will have to message you.
You'll have to let me know.
Yeah, because I thought it would be so fun.
Like, even like 34 hours, like, yeah. Are you racing with your dad?
No, I was thinking, initially I was trying to plan to do a race when we're there, but then I was like, to have to juggle between like, what is my son going to be doing? What is my husband going to be doing? Oh, you know. Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet, but
okay.
It's not exactly on the list of like, we're definitely racing while we're there, but I'm like, why not race? We used to always race on vacation. So we'll see. Yeah, I know. I'm like, back when I like had free time, it was fun. Did vacations, right? This will be like my first vacation in, I don't know, 3 years. So we're excited. I know, but yes, we will have to see if I can come meet up and run with the club or something. That would be so awesome.
You'll have to let me know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Coach Jho, for taking the time to talk to us and talk about your awesome run club and just like talk about, you know, all the things running. This was really fun. I feel like I always need to have a little bit of like run chat with people because I'm like, I don't have enough running people to talk to sometimes. So
no, I love that. Well, thank you so much for having me and for talking through this stuff. I really enjoyed it and great questions.
Yeah, of course.
I'm excited. Recording.
Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, all the things that you can do for a podcast that you enjoy listening to. Make sure you check out social media, our website, any of those things. If you have questions, comments, interview requests, feel free to email me at maracayrunclub@gmail.com.